Hello my friends. I'm going to show you how to propagate your fig tree by air layering. Here we're going to do a air layering, and this is a fig tree, and what you do is you cut all the way around the bark, then you come up about an inch, inch and a half, do the same thing. Make sure the cut goes all the way around. Then you split this between the two cuts and lift this bark off. And it has to be growing at this time, and the bark slips. Now the wood, that's xylem, and nutrients flow up the wood to the leaves, and with the photosynthesis process, it creates these energy packets that have hormones in it, and that flows down the phloem, which is the bark, and it will give signals to grow roots. So what you have to do in between these two is you have to scrape off the cambium layer. This is what's growing the cells for both the wood and the bark. If you don't do that, it may just go and regrow new bark. So we get all that scraped off all the way around. And now we want to cover that with sphagnum moss, which we already have wringed out. After saturating in water, grab a ball of it and squeeze it very hard until you don't even get a drop of water exiting the ball. Right here. This is going to make our root ball. Now I'm using heavy foil. This is going to hold it all together. Now we want this in the center. This foil, what it's going to do is protect this area from drying. It's going to protect it from sunlight, and it's also going to hold some pressure against that wound, and that's real important that it's in tight contact. So right there, that's all that is needed to be done. Now you could use a growth rooting hormone like root tone, or some people use raw honey, and sometimes you could use crushed willow that's been soaked in water, and you could soak your sphagnum moss in the water that soaked overnight in crushed willow, and that'll have a growth hormone in it also. So this will grow us a new tree. What we'll do in 6 to 8 weeks, check for roots. If it's rooted good, we'll trim this, cut this off. This will be our new plant, and then the remaining piece on this should be trimmed to the center stem to allow good healing from the wound that we're going to make when we cut this off. Right here, we're going to remove this bark. We want to cut all the way around and come up about an inch to an inch and a half. Do the same thing here. This wound, the plant wants to heal it, and a plant doesn't repair. What it does, a term called compartmentalize, And what it'll do is it'll grow cells around the wounded area. So this wound that we're making, when the energy from the leaves coming down the phloem, which is the bark, it will have different hormones in it, and it will send signals to grow roots right in this area. Now, once that is removed, we have to get rid of the cambium cells or layer, which is the layer that grows the phloem and the axium, which is the wood. And that'll keep it from wanting to reconnect, and then it'll force it into growing roots. Now, this is raw honey, and this also is full of enzymes that will help it root. So some we did without using it, and we did a couple with it, and that will give us a test piece, a standard to go from, and we can make a comparison. So we did 2 this way. Now you have to squeeze this real tight. The moss has to be tight against that wounded area. This is sealed. This will keep the moisture in. 6 to 8 weeks we test, and it would be a good thing to label on these when you formed the splice in there, the air layering. That way you'll know when the 6 to 8 weeks are up. So that's what I'll do, is I'll get my Sharpie, come down and mark right onto these balls, and see how we do in 6 to 8 weeks. Thanks for watching, my friends. Bye-bye.